PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
I'm sorry we didn't make it in last week. It was terrible. We were just like... We
Yeah.
We got to apologize for that at first. This week we had a bunch of really crazy stuff.
Yes, we did.
We got some documentaries. We got some flashback or rewind reviews. We got interesting news that have made headlines. Previews of a few other things. Some more awards news. I think hopefully we'll be able to pack it all into our usual like concise, precise, exacting standards, don't you?
You mean what we would just ramble about stuff?
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We're doing that right now. I'm TC Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
Like sands through the movies.
This is Subject Cinema.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
This town needs an enema.
Celebrating a decade of film podcasting. Lasting out of Beantown, USA, you're tuned into Subject Cinema with TC Kirkham and Kim Brown.
Directive.
Oh, behave. Yeah.
I volunteer as tribute.
Suppose you run your business and let me run mine. Here's looking at you, kid.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome TC and Kim.
Movies, and more movies. Always on the road and on the go for you. This is Subject Cinema. I'm TC Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
Subject Cinema number 557, day and date, February 19th, 2017. Sorry we missed last week. Had a bit of crazy stuff going on, and we just couldn't pull it together because I was down most of the weekend with a bad problem with my neck and my migraine, and I even missed doing Catastrophe Vortex this last week because of the after effects. So that'll be back Wednesday, too, and a lot of great stuff. Mm-hmm. How was your week? My week sucked. That part of the week sucked. How was your week?
Well, my week started off kind of interesting because we got to come into work on Monday 2 hours late because there was a snow squall, I suppose. It wasn't a snowstorm because it didn't last all that long. It was messy and terrible, and they decided to let us come into work a little bit late so that people could actually show up. So I get into work, and lo and behold, there is a beautiful vase full of lovely flowers sitting on my desk.
For Pete's sake.
So I screamed, "I got flowers!" at the top of my lungs in my office. I don't care. Don't judge me. I was like walking on clouds the rest of the day.
Who got you flowers? I'm going to hurt him.
Well, since the card came from you, unless one of your alternate personalities kicked in and didn't, and paid for it and didn't tell you.
My what? My alternate personalities?
Well,
is it like alternate facts? Oh, sorry, we're not going to go there.
We're not.
Anyway.
No, can we please not?
No politics on this show.
Ugh, please no.
Unless it's one of our political shows from over the last few years. Seriously though, I do feel bad we missed last week's show. It was last minute. I came down with a migraine. Well, I have a pinched nerve in my neck. I was diagnosed with it like 7 years ago. And they insist I do physical therapy, but it doesn't work. I've done it. It hasn't worked. They won't give me meds for it. I can't take ibuprofen anymore because of what I'm doing, my other medical issue going on. and Tylenol doesn't do crap for it. So I had a bad ride on the train Friday night. By the time I got home, I was in screaming pain, and that led to a migraine, and I was down and out for the count for most of last weekend.
Yeah. So
it was not fun.
No.
I do apologize. I was able to manage to get Kim's show up, and that was good, but because I'm sitting quietly editing, that I can handle, but that's everything else. So this week we've got a couple of rewind reviews from last year's festival circuit from movies that have come out or are now on demand. And we got a couple of recent smaller films. We're going to look at the Oscars. Now, of course, next weekend is our big Oscar weekend show. We will be doing our regular show on Sunday, and then Monday we will have the Oscar recap show with where we'll comment on the winners, fashions, such and such from the Spirit Awards, the Razzies, and the Oscars. And I got to say, I'm so tired of Oscar. I'm almost as tired of Oscar this year as I was of the politics at the election time. I'm just so tired of, he's going to win, he's going to win, You know,
I'm so
it's
tired
just
of
so irritating.
You know
at
what
this
I'm
point.
tired of? Oscars so fill in the blank.
Oh, I know. Now it's Oscar's so old. Oscar's so young because they've come out with a thing. We'll probably talk about it in a week or two where apparently elderly people, and especially elderly people of ethnic varieties, not just blacks but Asians and Hispanics and all ethnic varieties, over 60 are rarely represented in films nominated for Best Picture. And the only two they can find where somebody has been over 60 since 2000 are both Michael Keaton films, Birdman and Spotlight. I'm like, that's pathetic.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, okay.
Well, it is
And he's not
pathetic.
that much over 60. He's like 62. He's not that old.
It is really pathetic when you think about the fact that Hollywood, and this is not new, Hollywood has been taking the attitude pretty much since forever that once you hit 25, you're old.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're a woman.
Yeah, well,
know?
that's what the whole IMDb controversy of casting thing is about. We've been through that. I just don't agree with what they're doing with that. But
it's ridiculous. Grow up. Women are, people are people, so people get older. It's the whole, it's the whole circle of life thing. People gets older. It beats the alternative.
I have a couple of other interesting stories for you and a drive-in dungeon, but we're going to start off with this week's rewind review this week. This is a film that we saw last year at the Salem Film Fest, and it was an amazing film. And it's so enlightening. It's a subtitled film. You'll have to read subtitles. But the film is such an important film, and it never really got recognition from Cinema Eye Honors this year and a few other places. It's been recognized by Clotrudis. It is getting a few recognition from the fringe groups, but not mainstream. And it really needs to be seen. And we wanted to spotlight it this week as a rewind review / main screen so that you can take a look at it because the film is now available on Netflix and you need to see it. From 2016, May, our Boston Springs Festival show, this is our review of Sonita.
Deja vu. What is it and why does it occur?
Just had that little feeling. You ever get that funny little, that kind of feeling, that vuja day? Not deja vu. This is vuja day. This is the strange feeling that somehow none of this has ever happened before.
Deja Vu Review.
همین خارج بودن خوبه؟ نه اون پدر مادره مایکل جکسون و ریانا تو چی میدونی از سرنوشت من فردام روشنه نخو غم I'm a rapper.
One of the things I really like about the Salem Film Fest is they always bring some oddball music-oriented documentaries in. And when I say oddball, I don't mean that in a negative context. I mean in the way that we normally think of musical documentaries. This one is music fused on civil rights and human rights and a number of other things, as it follows the trek of a girl from Afghanistan, originally, now living elsewhere, I believe in Tehran, if I'm not mistaken, who has aspirations of being a rapper. That in itself says a lot. When you're thinking about Western way of thinking, it's like, are you crazy? Well, maybe she is crazy like a fox. Give us the rundown on Sonita.
Sonita is 18. She lives in Tehran. She's originally from Afghanistan. She is currently living in Tehran, undocumented, with some of her family. She dreams of being a rapper and using music as a way of talking about the deplorable conditions that she has to live in and the hideous traditions, Dr. Evil quotes, that she's expected to bow down to, including the fact that her family is intending to sell her as
This is normal. Don't get that cluck in your voice. That's a normal practice among Afghanis, anyway.
I'm sorry, didn't we used to call this slavery?
This is a different culture. We are not one world. Anyway. Gotta keep the perspective on that.
Perspective this. The thing is, where she's living, women are not allowed to sing in Iran.
She lives with her sister and her niece in a 1-room or 2-room flat there with a mat on the floor and her posters up on the wall by her mat and writing her own song lyrics.
Yep. And she's trying to get out of Iran. She wants to spread her wings. She wants to sing. She wants people to hear about the conditions and what she's trying to talk about in her rap, which is so much. Her rap is so much more than what we think of in America. I mean, a lot of people in America hear the word rap and they just close their ears.
Well,
they tend to forget that rap is supposed to be about, the conditions people are living in and using it as a way to get out of those conditions and to make those, we're having problems. We want you to hear about them so we can try and foster change.
Which is what NWA was all about in last year's Straight Outta Compton showed how they got their start in their socially conscious lyrics. That's what Sonita is going for too.
But will she be able to make it? And will she make it out of Iran is what this film is about.
They made it clear in the film also that it's okay for women to sing in Iran as long as they're doing it for the state.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to perform as a state employee, which is not what Sonita is going for. In fact, she has some interesting things to say about the state. I was blown away by this film in so many ways because I am not the biggest rap fan on the planet. There are certain acts I like a lot, are as diverse as like Toby Mac and Eminem, but there are acts I just can't tolerate. Wow, she is one talented rapper.
She is.
And she writes some really amazing raps about social consciousness and social justice and things that they need to be. And one of them, the one centerpiece that she is focused on throughout this film, is the one she writes about the idea that her mother and her 2 brothers and her 2 cousins are planning to just whisk her away and sell her for her marriage, regardless of whether or not she wants it or not.
Yeah.
She's not having any of it.
No.
And I like that part of Sonita. She does not put up with any crap whatsoever, even from her mother, who is absolutely set on doing this because it's the right thing to do because her brothers need the money. Now, Mom had gone through this herself, had ideas, and then was sold off, became a family woman, and now she's, she's way up there. She's in her 60s, and she must have had Sonita very late in her life. But it's like, wow.
This is another example of a movie that will infuriate you. This movie...
I don't agree.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
I don't agree. Not in the way that you're thinking about it. This movie is not infuriating. It's exhilarating. It brings a new look and a new way of thinking to a lot of people in her area of the world. You can be infuriated about the whole marriage thing and the way that they treat women, but the way that she comes up with getting out of it and what actually ends up happening at the end, which is, I'll give you a little hint, it's a good thing, is amazing. And now she is in a position where she can put herself on the world stage and start talking about this stuff.
Right.
That is exhilarating, not infuriating to me. That's my own opinion.
That is, but getting there and watching what she has to go through to get there. This is another example of, I mean, you could have cooked marshmallows off of me. I mean, I was that angry. And the rage that was radiating off me was palpable. And it
Hugh
would...
Lewis Black.
You know, it would be off of any... I would think it would be off of any woman. You know, any woman would look at this. Any woman that grew up in the Western culture would look at this and be like, "What?" You know.
There's your key, though. In the Western culture, we're putting our own cultural values on a different part of the world that doesn't accept them, and that's why the anger comes out. We don't understand that that's the way they normally operate there.
That doesn't make it right.
By our standards. I'm sorry, I don't agree with it, but that does not mean that they don't. You know? It's hard. It's hard when you're dealing with something like that.
All I know is I was watching this beautiful young woman. You know, Sunita's this beautiful girl with these old eyes. Her eyes have seen so much for someone so young, fighting against this hideous, backward, awful tradition, quote, quote.
Yeah, leave it. Let's call it that, a tradition.
You know, and I just wanted to reach out and grab this girl and run like hell. You know, I wanted to just grab her and run. Because I just wanted so much for this girl to have everything that she wants and deserves. The basic right to be a person and say, this is what I choose to do. And if I don't want to get married, I don't have to get married. And you can't sell me like a stereo, you know, to somebody just because they decide they want me. You know, oh my gosh, this movie made me angry.
I know.
You know.
What's your score?
I give it an A+.
I give it an A+ too. Sunita is coming out later this year, and it is definitely going to be something that's going to be interesting to watch. It was the winner of the World Cinema Grand Prize documentary and the Audience Award documentary at this year's Sundance Film Festival, and it looks like it is going to be a monster hit when it comes out later this year.
And I also believe you can get her video on YouTube.
You can check out some of the videos she did on YouTube, absolutely. And they are amazing. You know, for the limited resources she had, she did a great job. Check out Sunita when it comes to a theater near you later this year. This is the kind of film that you look at and it angers you, and yet it empowers you. Sunita is you know, known around the world now. She's done all kinds of things with this film in mind. But the conditions haven't changed at home.
No.
And I really, this is why we gave the grade such a high grade to the film, is because it needs to be seen.
It really does.
And now everybody has the opportunity. It is out on DVD. You can stream it on Netflix. It is an absolute must-see. And her rapping is really good.
It really
She's
is.
really good. And I'm like, this is something everybody should take a look at, because it will open your eyes to the way that some cultures think.
Yeah.
Completely different than what, I mean, we see this and we're like, holy God, this is so barbaric, and yet it's perfectly normal for them.
I know.
And it's hard for us to digest that. And that's what makes this film so important. I mean, it really does.
I mean, for someone like you, I think this film would be hard to digest, because I say that about you because you are a very compassionate person.
Yeah.
And I've known you for a long time, so I know that. For me, a woman that grew up post-sexual revolution...
she was enraged at this film.
I was
as she
choking
said.
with rage by the end of this movie. I mean, we were walking out of this movie and TC and I have our vibe thing. We feel each other and stuff like that.
I hadn't felt a vibe like this from her since Sita Sings the Blues, probably?
Yeah, probably.
That was 2009, so that's years ago.
I mean, he's like, okay, we need to get her someplace and calm
her a
down.
drink.
It's like, you know, have her like put her head between her legs and breathe, or put some cold water on her or something like that.
It wasn't that bad.
You know,
it wasn't that bad.
I was like, if anger actually gave off heat, I would have been like the Human Torch. You know, it was just But this story needs to get out there because people have to look at this and go, this is wrong. I know this is another culture.
As Paul Harvey used to say, we are not all one world. Despite what the globalists like Mark Zuckerberg would have us think, we are not all one world. And everybody has their own traditions. And what we see as wrong, they don't see that way. What we see as barbaric, they don't see that way. And it would be nice if we could pull together and get everybody on the same page. And I don't know that it's ever going to be possible.
No.
It's just human nature.
And I realize me saying this is wrong is probably... Look,
by your cultural standards,
yes,
it is wrong. I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
By my cultural standards, this hurts my heart.
Yeah,
it really does. And I do understand it's somebody else's culture, but my thing is the fact that I was brought up, and this has nothing to do with politics or anything like that. I was brought up that everybody should be free. Everybody should be free to make their own choices about what they do for a career. You know, I grew up, as I said, post-sexual revolution. You know, the whole idea that you can do anything you want. You can be Wonder Woman if you want to be. You know, that kind of a thing.
That's coming up later in the show.
You know, and to see this kind of stuff still going on in the, Dr. Evil quotes, enlightened 2000s, you know, it's like, what the actual hell?
Different culture, different religion. It's different of everything.
That.
So that's why. I know you do.
Know,
but I just need to say that.
You know, it does. It hurts your heart.
Yeah.
You know, it really does.
You guys need to check out this film if you have not seen it and you have Netflix. Yeah, the streaming, it's available. It should be available from them on DVD too. Look at your local Redbox. Hopefully they'll have it. If they don't, write to them and tell them you want it. This film should be seen by as many people as can be seen throughout the next few weeks, and please tell your friends where to get it.
And you may want to do something else too. Write to your local PBS station. Try and get
it. Actually is coming back. It is coming up as part of, I think, Independent Lens later this spring. It is scheduled for PBS airing, so you will be able to see it there too.
And definitely record it then, and get it to people who may not be able to see it, because Sunita's voice needs to be heard by everybody.
No film is too good or too bad for us. This is Subject Cinema.
In a world where podcasts already seem to address every imaginable subject, one man broke new ground with a seemingly random obsession about exploding helicopters in movies. He was a podcaster on the edge, a maverick broadcaster who played by his own rules. Now, he has a last chance to talk about the strange way helicopters explode in film. Exploding Helicopter, available on iTunes and Podomatic now. Think you know about justifiables? Think again.
All movies, all the time. Subject Cinema.
So, freeze frame this week. What is your opinion? There's a big controversy going around right now, thanks to President Trump, about fake news. Fake news became an evil word back during the campaign. He and Mrs. Clinton throwing it around, Gary Johnson, even Bernie Sanders a few times, talking about fake news. Because Facebook and all the online social places were placing these ads basically that looked like stories, and you'd click on them and they'd give you some really exaggerated thing that if you went to Snopes.com was probably debunked as a news article. That's obviously kind of sleazy, don't you think?
It's incredibly sleazy.
So imagine
I'm sorry, there has always been fake news.
Right.
Whether you call it fake news, yellow journalism, muckraking,
those are different things, because those are usually gossip stuff, as opposed to blatantly fabricated stories, which fake news is.
I don't entirely agree.
Okay. Well, anyway, we're not going to get into a debate on that.
Okay.
Imagine the look on the faces of the publicity departments at Fox this week when they got found out. Fox, 20th Century Fox Studios, were using a fake news campaign to promote the new thriller, A Cure for Wellness. The movie opened this weekend with Dane DeHaan and Jason Isaacs, the stars. And they had leased and bought domains for a bunch of fake newspapers. They had placed news articles supposedly about this place in the film where Dane DeHaan goes to retrieve his boss, and it's a Hotel California. You can't, once you check in, you can never leave thing. And BuzzFeed found out about it and called them out, and now it's everywhere.
Yeah, they made
people
it seem
are
like
losing their heads and their jobs at Fox Publicity Department.
Fox made it seem like this was a real place. I mean, this would be like somebody. This would be like somebody somehow fabricating a story that the places that they showed in the movies, like Hostel, were real. Well, could you imagine if that happened?
The thing is, the reason they got in trouble for it. Do you know how you and I have always debated about Richard Nixon and how much trouble the problem wasn't what he did, it was that he got caught and then didn't admit it.
See, my thing has always been Nixon got in trouble because he got caught, and B, lied about it.
Right. So that's
why everybody got out the pitchforks and torches.
It's not unusual for fake news to be associated with viral publicity campaigns. It started in a big way with J.J. Abrams and Cloverfield when they put together all this stuff about the Tegarudo Company, which has also now jumped into a number of other Abrams properties.
Yeah, and the whole Slusho drink that's supposedly made by the Tegarudo Company.
And that all somehow connected to the Cloverfield universe and everything else. And it also happened when X-Men Apocalypse was getting ready to come out last year. 20th Century Fox again, put together one of those Beautiful Homes films about the Xavier estate. With a tour of the estate and playing off the students. I mean, they did have most of the cast was in these as in character, but not using their powers. Obviously, they're students at the Xavier student, and when you admit that, they also did that with X-Men First Class a few years ago.
Right.
They did several other studios have done stuff like that, but they've been upfront about it.
Yeah.
Go see our cool, it's set up to look like it's part of the film universe.
Yeah.
Fox didn't do that.
Which is great. When you do it the way they did it with that stuff, it makes it more immersive for the audience.
I love the stuff from Cloverfield. The Cloverfield stuff was, you had to look for that stuff, and it was fun to look for and see.
And that's cool. It makes it feel more real, but you know that it's not.
Right, which is where they went wrong with this campaign. Yeah. They didn't tell anybody they were doing it. It was pushed as real.
This was just flat out dishonesty.
This is Cannibal Holocaust push real, Well,
Cannibal Holocaust, now obviously what we're talking about here for people that are kind of new to this, Cannibal Holocaust was one of the first found footage films. Because at the time it was so graphic, so gruesome, and so incredibly violent, people thought that the actors were actually killed.
Right.
They thought it was what is referred to as a snuff film.
Right.
The director of the film had to actually produce the actors in court and be like, see, they're not dead. They're right here. Hello. Wave to the camera. Kind of a thing. I mean, granted, they did get in trouble, and deservedly so, because animals were actually tortured and killed in that film, which is never a good thing.
They also tried this with Blair Witch a few years ago and insisted it was real for the first few weeks it was out there and got caught on it and didn't hurt the box office any. But
no.
But now, with something like this, you're not really aware you're being rickrolled into this thing until you see somebody, a familiar face. I mean, most people know Dane DeHaan's face by this point. Most people probably know Jason Isaacs' face, although they don't realize who he is because he doesn't have blonde hair when he's not playing Lucius Malfoy.
If you squint and imagine the blonde wig, you go, hey!
Right. And so, there's a number of other, well-known actors in the film.
But this kind of chicanery and foolishness and shenanigans,
goings on.
We might even be graduating into tomfoolery here. This is not exactly new either. I mean, you and I both remember when there was this enormous, everybody flipped out and wrung their hands about the fact that these movies would be coming out and there would be rave reviews in the print ads and stuff like that.
A lot of them turned out to be made up.
Yeah. From critics that people were like, well, I never heard of Francis X, Duck Call or whoever, and that's
the
because
Vancouver Centurion or these
that's
papers
because
didn't
Francis
exist
X
either.
Duck Call wasn't a real person. He was made up by the studio.
I believe all of that happened, if I'm not mistaken, from the Sony publicity department. I'm not sure. I remember when we covered it about 10 years ago, but yeah.
And I remember thinking, you people are idiots, because this kind of nonsense and bullshittery will always get found out. And it happened again.
Especially, which ironically, I think this is true, that it's BuzzFeed that dug this up. BuzzFeed is being pointed to by the Trump administration as one of the worst fake news sites currently available. Mm-hmm. So, when it comes to politics, they're probably right. When it comes to entertainment, that's different.
Well, you could just argue they're saying that because they don't particularly care for President Trump, and in all
fairness, they gave pretty equal negative coverage to Clinton also. So
last time I looked, that was their right. But as we said, we're not going to argue politics.
No politics. Anyway,
but
it's just interesting that this happened right at this whole particular juncture.
It's bigger bells, it's bigger whistles, it's bigger smoke machines. It's still the same. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
It still wagged the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But
naughty Fox.
Yeah, you will always get caught.
So maybe we should
always.
Maybe we should. Well, no. I was going to say maybe we should give them our dramatic chipmunk, but it's not really because it's not really a dramatic chipmunk worthy. They don't deserve it. They don't even deserve a Charlton chipmunk.
It's not dramatic enough. Thank you.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
Check out the Blueprint Review podcast at blueprintreview.co.uk. This could be interesting because I know we've got some very diverse people. I'm going to be arguing with Darren a lot.
I think it's going to be me v you lot, with maybe Laura sat in the middle.
To be honest, I think it's about expectation.
Yeah.
Like, I think...
Yeah, I expected it to
Welcome to the soundtrack of your life. You're listening to Subject Cinema with TC Kirkham and Kim Brown.
The Silver Stream.
Every year, there is all this debate about the Oscars, whether something is worthy, blah, blah, blah. Now, in our house, we have different debates because that's just who we are. And with us, usually, the larger debates are not about the larger films. They're about the short films, the smaller films. And specifically, we're always talking about the animated shorts, which have their own category.
Shorts and live action shorts and animated shorts and documentary shorts have been made available finally for the past several years through a program where all 5 of them are showing together at various art house cinemas usually, and 2 of them are available on demand every year, and they're worth trying to take a look at.
And every year we seem to say the same thing.
I don't know what's going to win. It's so hard. Ah!
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We took in this year's animated Oscar short nominees, and this is going to be so difficult.
This year, it's going to be like pulling your toenails out with rusty pliers. It's that hard.
Now, we had seen one of them prior to this. Piper from Pixar opened with Finding Dory last summer, and it is an adorable little cartoon.
It was probably the most squeeable cartoon of the year, I think.
Yeah.
But we got to see the other 4 films that are up for Best Animated Short.
It's interesting that these have all been getting incredible word of mouth from the various festivals and the various short people, the Annie Awards and the BAFTAs, and it's been interesting to see because some of them it's going every which way. One wins here, another one wins here. It's like, this is going to be insane.
And now that we've seen all 5, they're all so different and so unique and so special and so worthy. I do not envy the Oscar people at all.
We started off with Borrowed Time, which is actually from a Pixar group. It's not under the Pixar name, it's under their experimental group. It's a little Western type of thing. A quick rundown.
Yeah. It's the story of a father and son, a tragedy that separated them, and what brings them back together again over the bridge and over the gap of time. It is so very intense.
Yeah, it is. The artwork is unbelievable, and the story is great, and there's no words or anything. It's all...
But no, there's a few
Well, there
lines.
are, but they're flashback. In the present day, there's not really any.
No.
And it's interesting.
Following that up was Pearl. Pearl is a story of cars and music.
And Pearl.
And Pearl.
Which I think is the name of the little girl.
And fathers and daughters and love, and had me bawling by the end of it.
And a single car. So maybe Pearl is the car.
That could be too.
I don't know.
Hey, if an Impala can be called baby.
Next up was a film that's getting amazing word of mouth from the National Film Board of Canada called Blind Vaisha, or Vaisha.
Blind Vaisha, which is based on a I think Ukrainian or Russian tale, I forget which.
Right.
So powerful, so trippy. I'm like, please do not see this if you've just done shrooms or something, because it will totally mess with your head. Not that you should do shrooms anyway, because drugs are bad. Okay?
The artwork is this is old-fashioned pencil and pen artwork. It's not computer. At least it doesn't look like computer to me. And it's something.
The story is so mind-blowing and draws you in, and the artwork just leaves your jaw in your lap, I think.
We mentioned Piper. Now, these 4 films are all under 10 minutes. So these are typical short films.
Yep.
And then we get the 5th nominee, which I don't know how else to describe it. It has been talked about a lot at the various film festivals. A allegory of a friend called Pear Cider and Cigarettes. This is 35 minutes long. And I was like, whoa.
Pear Cider and Cigarettes is what winds up being an incredibly engrossing story about friendship and the art of friendship and the art of self-destruction.
That is apparently a true story, because you notice he thanked Techno's family.
Yeah.
At the end of the theater.
It's told for the point of the narrator, who is talking about a late friend of his who was one of everybody knows somebody like Techno, or you know somebody who knows somebody like Techno. One of these people who is very charismatic, very good at getting what they want, and also very good at completely destroying themselves, and unfortunately sometimes the people around them, because they're kind of
adrenaline junkie. His main hobbies were he liked to drink, he liked to smoke, and he liked to get down and do crazy crap.
Yeah. The thing is, people like that are kind of like a whirlpool of narcissism. They tend to draw in the people around them and drown them in their own issues. Now, when we saw this film, I don't want to give away a lot about it.
No, I don't either.
But
it's going to be, I mean, it's available now, so you can check it out on
There is something that occurs in this film that had me flashing back to a film that we saw at the Salem Film Festival.
We should say that part of that, there is a film out there we talked about 2 years ago at the Salem Film Festival called
David's and Goliath.
David's and Goliath. It's also known as Human Harvest.
Yep.
Has to do with organ transplants done in China.
Yeah.
And there is.
And we're not going to speculate that has anything to do with this, but
it's speculated fine in the movie. You didn't need to do any speculation.
But you know, all of these, and of course the adorable, ridiculously cute. Oh my gosh, I want one of these Piper, which is the story of a little bird who is being taught by her mom how to do what sandpipers do, which is go around and pick up little clams and things once the tide goes out. The problem is when the tide comes back in, Piper winds up getting caught in the water, and she's scared of the water, so she's got to learn how to deal with that fear in order to survive. But it's done in a very adorable way, and Piper is just this little ball of fluff and feathers and floof and adorableness.
Floof? What is floof?
It's fluffier than fluff.
Oh. Floof. Okay. Floof is new. I've not heard of this one before.
I made up a new word. Yay! All of these... We sat there after every one of these going, damn, that was good, or damn, that was intense, or damn, that was interesting. After it was all done, we looked at each other and we're like, damn, this is going to be hard.
This is going to be... I said to Kim, I do not want to be an Academy member who is voting on the short animated films this year, because it's going to be insane. These 5 films are all worthy of an Oscar. It's very, very difficult to sit back and say, I want this to win, I want that to win, because in all fairness, all 5 films, I mean, if I could give it to all 5 films, I would. So, with that having been said, what's your gut?
To be honest with you, I would, like you said though, I'd love it if they could all win.
Yeah.
And I hate saying crap like that, but I really would be.
It's so hard, because on previous years there's been one that's been...
There's been one that stands out.
Well, not necessarily one that stands out. I've seen there's one that's not quite as good as some of the other ones. I thought over the last couple of years.
Okay, I see what you mean.
This year, they're all 5.
They're all 5 so good. I'm like,
choices.
I'm like, damn it. I would like Pearl to win. I have a feeling Pear Cider and Cigarettes is going to win.
The odds-on favorite right now is Blind Vasha from the people, because it is so... That movie, we were looking at each other going, what the... F this and what... And it's only 8 minutes long. And it's like, holy cow.
And it was, when it was done, it was like you felt wrung out. Yeah. And not in a bad way. You felt like somebody had
It was like, what the beep was that? I'm like, not in a bad way. It was just like, holy God, my head's just exploding.
You felt like somebody had just taken your brain and run it through one of those old-fashioned crank things that they used to flatten laundry.
Some people have pegged Piper as this year's child, because Pixar has actually not won a short film Oscar in almost 20 years.
Wow.
And so this one is so adorable, but I got to be honest, Pear Cider and Cigarettes is just an amazing film, but my gut lies with Pearl. I adored Pearl. It was beautiful and funny and touching, and the music was fantastic. And I don't know, I'm going to be happy no matter what wins. Mm-hmm. I think all of them are deserving. I was a little ticked off a couple years ago when Mr. Hublot won. I didn't really care for that one. I wanted Farrell to win that year, and it was like, damn it, I didn't really care for that particular cartoon. These, I loved all 5 of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, they're absolutely worth it.
It was like somebody gave you a box of the best chocolates in your most favorite flavors and said you can pick only one.
Yeah.
It was like,
If you get a chance, check it out. On the on-demand. The on-demand service probably will not have Piper on it. We actually got it through screeners. But the on-demand service and the ones in theaters, Pixar usually does not make theirs available. Neither does Disney when they have one.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell. It may be there, it may not be. If it's not, you'll get to see a finalist probably that wasn't part of it. But they're all worth seeing, and it's definitely I can't wait to see Oscar now, but it's going to kill me. It's great. The animated short nominations, I think we'd give them all probably at least an A minus or an A.
Yeah,
they were all terrific. Check it out on your local on demand and watch for the winners next week at the Academy Awards.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
His movies.
Way to go, Charlie!
I think it rips through your clothes when it takes you over.
More human than human is our motto.
He tasks me, and I shall have him.
Her movies.
The hills are alive.
You're so jealous you can hardly breathe.
The rum! Yes, the rum is gone.
Why is the rum gone?
Suddenly my life doesn't seem such a waste.
Fuzzy Fur Movies. The Cavebabble Podcast. We babble about the movies you love.
And probably a few that you love to hate.
Find out more at cavebabble.com. Also available on iTunes, Stitcher, and by Smoke Signal. C-A-V-E. Babble. Cavebabble.com. Movies for him, her, and you.
If you're looking for great films, well, that's okay. You'll like us anyway. Subject Cinema.
As we said earlier in the show, as we listen to Red Carpet Monitors music going, Oscar weekend is coming up, but that doesn't mean the complete end of the awards shows until probably mid-March. St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, will be the date to watch for the 2017 Young Artist Awards. These are the awards that award the young performers, all under 21 years of age, in several different age groups. We follow this. It's a great place for us to find rising stars over the years, and we have. They are a terrific organization that has been doing this for a long, long time. And let's run them down. The major nominees this year at the Young Artist Awards for Best Performance in a Feature Film. For Supporting Young Actor, the nominees are Caleb Brown for Mother's Day, Jack Fulton for Closet Monster, and Charlie Shotwell for Captain Fantastic. For Supporting Teen Actor, the nominees are Thomas Barbusa for Middle School, Nicholas Hamilton for Captain Fantastic, Alex R. Hibbert for Moonlight, Seth Lee for The Accountant, Kai Norris for The Birth of a Nation, and Jacob Rodier for Love Is All You Need. For Supporting Young Actress, the nominees are Shree Cooks, Captain Fantastic, Alexia Nisensen for Middle School, and Kylie Rogers for Fathers and Daughters. For Supporting Teen Actress, the nominees are Ava Allen for Love Is All You Need, Annalise Basso for Captain Fantastic, Amanda Booz for Wigged Out, and Claire Foley for The Great Gilly Hopkins. Claire, a recent a Rising Star alum. For Leading Young Actor, the nominees are Julian Fetter for Poe, Oaks Fegley, Pete's Dragon, Edward Holdenen for Hunky Dory, Sonny Powar for Lion, Neil Sethi for The Jungle Book, and Jacob Tremblay for Before I Wake. For Leading Teen Actor, the nominees are Michael Barbieri for Little Men, Julian Dennison for Hunt for the Wilder People, Griffin Gluck for Middle School, Jaden Lieberher for The Confirmation, Jackson Martin for Sleeping Giant, and Theo Taplitz for Little Men. For Leading Young Actress, the nominees are Ruby Barnhill, BFG, another alumni of the Rising Star, as are Theo and Michael from the last category, Kayla Kennedy for Love Is All You Need, Olivia Presti for Odd Squad the Movie, and Sophia Rosinski for The Other Side of the Door. Leading Teen Actress, the nominees are Samantha Eisler for Captain Fantastic, Una Lawrence for Pete's Dragon, and Aishopalan Nuragiv, and I hope I got that right, the young lady that is the star of the documentary The Eagle Huntress. For television, for performances in a digital television series or film, the nominees for Young Actor are Aidan Lovekamp for Just Had Magic, Tyler Mazzai for Fun Size Horror, Hunter Payton for Who's Driving Doug, Dean Petru for Kindergarten Cop 2 and Noah Schnapp for Stranger Things. For teen actor, the nominees are Gaten Mazzarato for Stranger Things, Caleb McLaughlin for Stranger Things. Man, that show's taking everything over. Nicholas Niev for Boomville Redemption. John Paul Rutan for Against the Wild 2. Sloan Morgan Siegel for Gordimer and The Fault in Our Street. And Finn Wolfhard for Stranger Things. For young actress, the nominees are Millie Bobby Brown, Stranger Thing. Shaleigh L. Brannon for Tinker. Jolie Ledford for A Doggone Christmas. Madeline Lupi for The Girl in the Cornfield. And Pilot for All Hallows Eve. For teen actress, the nominees are Natalie Dyer for Stranger Things. Natalia Dyer for Stranger Things. Stranger Things. Let me try that again. For teen actress, the nominees Natalia. I'm sorry, I'm ruining your name. Natalia Dyer for Strange Things. Lexi Benedetto for Martyrs. Savannah Kennick for Holidays. Carly Roberts for Little Miss Perfect. And Alexis Rosinski for My Best Friend. And finally, for Best Performance in a TV Series, the nominees for Recurring Young Actor, Jared Breeze, The Young and the Restless, Parker Bates, This Is Us, Lonnie Chavis, This Is Us, Carter Ryan Ivancic, When Calls the Heart, Jack Fulton for 11/22/63, and Christian Gagnere for Days of Our Lives. For Recurring Teen Actor, the nominees are Trevor Larkham for Fresh Off the Boat, Luca Limogene, Limojis for Subito Texto, Rio Mangini for Bella and the Bulldogs, Toby Nichols for Underground, Jordan Poole for Mr. D, and Zachary S. Williams for Greenleaf. For Recurring Young Actress, the nominees are Sienna Adegong for Nikki, Ricky, Dickie, and Dawn, Mackenzie Hank-Sixack, I hope I've got that right, for This Is Us, Michaela Lucy for Odd Squad, and Asia Monet Ray for Grey's Anatomy. Let me go down here. For Supporting Young Actor, Christian Convery for Supernatural, Anthony Lapina for Blackish, and Matt Raymond for Kim's Convenience. For Supporting Young Actress, Alice Donahoe for Mr. B, Faith Donahue for Mr. D, and Sanya Sidney for Roots. For Leading Young Actor, the nominees are Miles Brown, Blackish, Ian Chen, Fresh Off the Boat, Ethan Hutchinson, Queen Sugar, Forrest Wheeler, Fresh Off the Boat, and Albert Sy, Dr. Ken. For Leading Teen Actor, Liam Carroll, The Detour, Daniel DiMaggio, American Housewife, Marcus Scribner, Blackish, Jake Sim, Raising Expectations, Jaheim King Toombs, 100 Things to Do Before High School, and Hudson Yang, Fresh Off the Boat. For Leading Young Actress, the nominees are Julia Butters, American Housewife, Aurea Caldwell, Uncle Buck, Ashley Gerasimovich, I hope I got that right, The Detour, Marseille Martin for Blackish, and Olivia Presti for Odd Squad. And for Leading Teen Actress, the nominees are Meg Donnelly, American Housewife, Amelia McCartney, Max and Shred, Yara Shahidi, Blackish, Erica Tham for Make It Pop, and Julia Thomason for Backstage. They also present awards to actors, young actors under the age of 21, in a number of other categories, including voiceover roles, television commercials, TV movies and specials, short films, and new media. The Young Artist Awards are telecast locally in Los Angeles on their PBS outlet, and they will be happening on March 17th this year, and we'll have all the winners after they occur.
Subject Cinema.
Alright guys, so we need to record our top 3 reasons why you should listen to French Toast Sunday podcast.
Number 3 should definitely be our diverse opinions.
Number 2 should probably be our top 3 lists that we do every week.
No, it's gotta be Mark Wahlberg.
What about Gwyneth Paltrow's head?
It's gotta be Fighting the Sadness in the Swamp of Sadness.
Full Frontal.
Stories about being lost at sea.
Brendan Fraser being underground.
Helen Mirren's boobs.
Baltimore accents as heard in The Wire.
Wunderklaus.
Crepes. Character studies.
Wait, guys. What about movies?
Nah.
Tree Rape.
Tree Rape? Yeah, I like Tree Rape.
Tune in every Friday for a new episode of French Toast Sunday podcast, brought to you by us at FrenchToastSunday.com.
Clothing made out of Burger King wrappers.
TC Kirkham and Kim Brown. Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
Hey kids, time to jump in the car. Pull into a choice viewing spot. Put the speaker in the window. Sit back, relax, and suffer with everyone else. It's time for another trip to the Subject Cinema Drive-In Dungeon.
A man who loved with fierce, demanding passion. A monster who ran wild in a reign of terror that spread murder in his trail.
I remember seeing this film when I was 7 or 8 years old. My mom and stepdad were playing cards with my aunt and uncle, and it was like late Friday night, and I was still up watching Chiller Theater. And this movie, I don't remember it sticking out in my mind other than the title of it. And so when we noticed it was on Netflix or Amazon, one of the two, with a Riff Tracks version, I'm like, Kim has never seen this. We got to watch it.
No, yeah, they never showed this on Creature Double Feature as far as I can remember. If they did, I missed it.
The movie is called The Hideous Sun Demon. Can you give us a quick, hopefully brief overview of the somewhat ridiculous plot?
Okay. The story of the Hideous Sun Demon is the tragic story of Dr. Gilbert McKenna, known as Gil to his friends, who is unfortunately winds up being exposed to a new radioactive isotope because this is the 50s and
60s.
It's
oh no, that's right. This is 50s, 58.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Wrong year. The unofficial sequel was the 60s.
Because this is the 50s, and that old bugaboo radiation is back, causing all kinds of mischief. Although at first it seems like nothing seems to be wrong. He seems to be okay. He's unconscious, but other than that, he seems to be all right. There's no burns. There's no, lesions. He's not glowing in the dark. Everything seems to be fine. Well, no. Actually, it turns out everything is not fine. We have taken a right turn into Craptown because Gil has been exposed to this radiation, and now when he is in the sun, he winds up turning into this reptilian creature. According to the movie, it looks about as much like a reptile as your average slice of toast. And he cannot control his murderous impulses because reptiles are naturally murderous. What?
Well, they're cold-blooded.
So?
That's. I just thought I'd throw that in. Anyway.
I don't think I like that implication since I'm cold-blooded, according to everybody. I
don't think I like your tone.
Going on with the plot. Is that a better tone? Gil winds up sequestering himself in a darkened house that looks like it was designed by a manic depressive and proceeds to do what most people would do in this situation, drink.
Drink some more.
The usual thing that people do when they can't, talk about their feelings and stuff. He winds up going out at night to drink more and winds up at a bar, because that seems like a perfectly good place to go. And
he's drinking after all.
Drinking, yeah. And winds up falling for a piano-playing singer named Trudy, who, if she's really playing the piano, I'm Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. Because, I'm sorry, this woman couldn't even fake playing the piano properly. What?
Nothing. I can't do that because it won't work.
He and Trudy wind up having a tryst on the beach that has about as much romantic oomph to it as, your average Mutual of Omaha watching animals get it on kind of thing. When the sun comes up in the morning, though, he realizes, oh crap, I have to leave. And in this gender-flipped inversion of Cinderella, winds up ditching Trudy on the beach and flees back to the house before he becomes a hideous sun demon. Doesn't quite make it. Story goes on from there with other scientists, including the lady scientist who has the hots for Gil, trying to fix him. The whole thing culminates in a big fight at a place where they have like oil refinery, those churning things, derricks and stuff like that, and a gun battle with the police and the fall off of a
top of the world, Ma.
Yeah, unfortunately, with no big explosion like that.
Or James Cagney.
Yeah. Fight at the top of a natural gas tank and Gil winding up splattered on the pavement below. The end.
Starring, written by, produced by, directed by Robert Clark.
Send your angry letters to
Robert Clark as Gil, along with Patricia Manning as Anne, Nan Peterson as Trudy, Patrick White as Dr. Frederick Buckle, Fred Laporta as Dr. Jakin Hoffman, Peter Similchuk as George, Bill Hampton as Police Lieutenant Peterson, Robert Gary as Dr. Stern, Zandra Conkling as Susie, Donna King as Susie's mother, Del Courtney as the radio DJ, Richard Casarino as the barfly, along with several other parts, and a few other people also. Oh my God, this movie is so painful. And it's painful in a painful way, not a fun way. Even with the riff track. We're sitting here getting ready for this and going, did we get this straight or with riff tracks or what? We don't remember any of the riffs.
No.
That's terrible. Usually we do. Mike and Bill and Kevin work hard on that stuff.
They do, but they had their work cut out for them with this piece of dreck.
Oh my God, this movie's horrible. The effects are horrible, although they're not creeping terror level bad.
Well, no.
But, I mean,
no, because, there's really not much you can say about a movie like The Creeping Terror, which looks like your opponent is a giant alien woolly bear. But then you get this movie where this guy is supposed to be turning into, because he's been exposed to this radioactive isotope, blah, blah, that it's supposed to be reverting him back into some point between the point where man became man and man had crawled out of the water, kind of a thing.
There was a lot of fifth grade science and a lot of narration from Paul Frees.
Totally, yeah.
On this.
And a lot of crap.
And it would help if Nan... You said, and you are right, I looked at here. The sequence where Nan is playing the piano is actually, and it came from Hollywood.
Yes,
right?
it is. Yep.
Yeah, because she can tell. I mean, even Susan Day faked it better, as the Partridge Family. Faked the keyboards better than this woman does.
I've seen cats walking across piano keys that played better than this chick.
The woman is no Chuka Parker, no question about it. But it's like, okay. Oh my gosh, this thing was
For
hideous.
everybody who saw The Amazing Colossal Man, and if you are part of that exclusive club like we are, I feel bad for you, and thought that the idea of somebody being at ground zero, surviving a plutonium explosion, and not winding up a puddle of spooge was the stupidest thing you ever saw in a movie, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, this has been on Oh, it was? I don't remember that. Oh, it must have been on a Shorts episode. There have been 2 redos of this. There was an unofficial one called Hideous Sun Demon Special Edition, which had redubbed stuff that was released in the 70s. And another one called What's Up, Hideous Sun Demon, also known as Revenge of the Sun Demon, released with the original director's permission, which was also a comedy. That was interesting because it had a number of notable names involved with that one, including Googie Gress, who was a voiceover guy, Susan Tyrrell, and Jay Leno doing the voice of the main guy. Mm-hmm. There was also What's Up, Hideous Sun Demon, the short that was According to this was featured on Mystery Science Theater 3000. I don't remember that.
I don't either. But that might have been during the Comedy Central days, when it was the Comedy Channel.
Or it could be one of the upcoming ones. So we'll have to wait and see.
I don't know.
I hope not. Oh, God, I hope not.
As TC mentioned, this was featured in It Came From Hollywood's clips of this, which is one of my favorite unseen films. And part of the soundtrack was actually used in a decent horror movie in the cemetery scene at the beginning of Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, yeah? Wow. So you can check out the Riff Tracks edition. It's on Amazon. And if you want to check it out, we'll have the link in the show notes. But be warned, it's painful. Even with the Riff Tracks, it's hard to get through. From 1958, The Hideous Sun Demon, our drive-in dungeon for this week.
Don't say we didn't warn you.
Subject Cinema.
Hal, if you love movies, you should listen to the Cavebabble podcast.
I'm afraid I can't do that.
Why not? Do you have a problem with Eric and Valerie?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
If they promise to cover more science fiction films, would that help?
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Hal. Sometimes I feel like we are from different circuit boards. If you change your mind, go to Cavebabble.com or subscribe to the Cavebabble podcast on iTunes.
T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema.
We're going to call this segment Only at the Movies because I don't know where else to put it. It's just so insane.
Or Only in America.
Well, no, definitely not Only in America. It's the kind of thing that could pop up anywhere if somebody thought of it. There are very few drive-ins left in the country. There's probably around 350 of them. I'd have to check with April Wright, the director of Going Attractions, if I wanted to get a current, accurate number.
Yep.
At one time, there was over 4,000 of them. A developer named Michael Counts is developing a drive-in theater called August Moon in Nashville. It's an indoor drive-in theater. Now,
I'm sorry, don't we call that a theater?
Well, I always had the idea of putting a giant dome over the lot so people could go in, rain or shine, snow, wind, whatever, be protected by the dome and sit there and watch movies. I've had that dream since I was like 10. This guy is doing this, but not in the way I'd envision, where you drive your own car in and have the vents at the top taking the exhaust out and stuff. No, he's building a dome drive-in theater with cars that are already there. The idea, you come in, walk in, pay your money, go find a vintage car to sit in and enjoy the film.
Yeah. So you drive to the drive-in, get out of your car, walk in, and sit in a car.
Now, it's in the conceptual stages, but it is under development.
I'm sorry, I don't like to piss on other people's ideas because this country was founded on entrepreneurs, but this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
The developer told WKRN News in Nashville that this was under development and they hope to have it open in the summer of 2018, that's next year. It's supposed to be along Interstate 24 near James Robertson Parkway in Nashville. And I've got to ask why you would want to do that. Because if you're putting actual vintage cars in here, those are going to be impossible to keep clean.
Those are going to get wrecked within 6 months.
Not to mention sanitation issues, sanitary issues like diseases and stuff like that. You're going to have to wipe down every surface of this car every day.
You're basically going to have to dunk the car in a tank of Purell.
Unless you can figure out a Purell mist that gets rid of everything, which I don't think exists.
I don't think that's possible.
I mean, dude, kudos for trying the idea of the dome, but just put vents in the top of the dome and let people drive their cars in. Don't put vintage cars in here, because not only will they get ruined and it's a sanitation issue, I mean, I didn't come to a drive-in to walk around. I came to sit in the car, relax, kick back, eat my popcorn, my hot dog, and watch a double feature. Only in the movies can you find a non-drive-in drive-in. I'll have a link to the story in the show notes. And thank you, MeTV, for bringing this to our attention.
Plug Central.
This is the part where we quickly talk about all of our other stuff going on. We got a couple of big subject cinema specials coming up. Next weekend, we'll have our regular show, but we'll also have our Oscar wrap-up show on Monday, day and date, the March 1st, I believe. There's no leap year this year, right? Nope, February 27th. We'll count down and give you all the input on the red carpets and the fashions and stuff, and the winners and losers at the Oscars, the Spirits, and the Razzies.
Yep.
And that'll be coming up on Monday evening, February 27th.
I think we should invent a new drinking game for the Oscars. Every time somebody brings up a political opinion, take a shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll be dead before we get through the first hour.
Also, especially since I was thinking to take a shot of Patron.
Also, coming up in 2 weeks, just 2 weeks, count them, Masochistic March returns.
Yay!
And this year, we're taking you to the Far East for the most part.
Yes. Or an unreasonable
Masochistic
facsimile.
Martial Arts March. We will have 4 bad martial arts films.
Yep.
One of which we have already suffered through.
Yes.
Oh my God. And they're all available on streaming, and it's going to be headache inducing and fun, and we will enjoy the hell out of it and be pained at the same time.
Because what do we always say here at Subject Cinema?
If we have to suffer, you have to suffer. Masochistic March starts on March 6th, right? March 6th? March 5th, and goes through the entire month of March, every week with masochistic movies all month long.
Yes.
We've also got all of our regular shows here. Kim's show, Platinum Rose's Garden, on every Saturday evening.
Yes, my show is my Supernatural podcast, where I look at the week's episode of Supernatural and talk about it and what I liked about it and what I didn't like, and Supernatural news and all kinds of fun stuff like that. This week I am looking at the episode Stuck in the Middle with You, and I hope you will come check that out over at PlatinumRosesGarden.com.
My new show, Catastrophe Vortex, will be back this Wednesday. I missed last week because of all my neck and migraine issues, but I'll be back this week with all great disaster films and a lot of fun. I hope you'll join me, plus all kinds of other stuff inside, and I'd love to hear from you about that. You can write to Kim at PRG at PlatinumRoseL at Yahoo.com.
Yahoo.com.
You can write
Put
to
PRG
Catastrophe
in the header, and I know you want me to read it on the air.
Catastrophe Vortex is at CV at PNRNetworks.com. Front Row 5 and 10, our show on Thursdays, all about lists. You can get in touch with us there at Front Row at PNRNetworks.com. This last week, we did our top 10 non-UK actors we picked to play Doctor Who.
Yep.
Coming up, we have some Bond stuff. You'll want to check that out.
Yep.
And our weekly mini shows. Tuesday, Digidex, all the latest shows coming out on DVD, Blu-ray, and streaming on Tuesdays. And Fridays, 3-Minute Weekend, all the latest films in the theaters.
And
those are at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on both of those shows.
And there's also Cavebabble, which is put out by our good buddies, the Lyon family. That would be Eric and Valerie Lyon, and their kids and grandkids and mailmen and Avon ladies, gas meter readers, whoever they can get.
Just
to come
because
by.
they live in Missouri doesn't mean they do all that stuff.
Well, you know.
They might have the odd storm chaser in occasionally in the springtime. I don't know. Cavebabble every weekend at cavebabble.com. We also want to remind you that Boston Springs the Festival for us is starting in March. The shows will actually come up in May, so you'll have to be waiting patiently with bated breath, but we'll give you little bits and pieces of it as we go through toward it, as we get through March and April, and more crazy films we're going to do as that goes on. We also want to remind you that we are in the midst of so far a very unsuccessful Patreon campaign. I've got to be honest with you guys. we are in desperate need of some new equipment, and we really need help to do it. We can barely cover our bills normally with our paychecks and stuff. We could really use some support helping us to get a new mixing board, new computer, a new preamp. We're desperately in need of these things, and we've been here 11 years. And if you've watched the show, listened to the show for even half that time, please be nice enough to take the time and sign up for Patreon at the $2 level. It's $2 a month, and we'd really appreciate it. And it definitely is needed. If we don't start getting some Patreon supporters, I'm going to have to do something to attract more attention. I mean, I'm just going to have to. Because we really need this, and we really need your support. So please come on board, at least at the $2 level. There's other levels. The higher the level, the better the perk is. And we can't do this without your help. And we can't grow without your help. And if you've been a loyal listener for that long, why not? Okay? That's all we're asking. Please come over. You can click on the Patreon button at any website, PNR Networks website, or go directly to patreon.com/PNR Networks. And I think that's going to do it for Plug Central this week.
Yep.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
You are about to witness history in the making.
Hi there, this is Todd from Forgotten Films, and if you spend all your time watching new releases, then you need to broaden your movie horizons. And a great way to do that is by joining me for the Forgotten Filmcast. We don't talk about the new releases, we don't even talk about the classics. We talk about the movies that time forgot. On each episode, I'm joined by another film blogger to discuss a film that may or may not be worth rediscovering. So look for the Forgotten Filmcast on iTunes, Podomatic, and wherever you find great podcasts.
Hello, I am Baymax, your personal healthcare companion. I was alerted to the need for medical attention when you said, ow.
Subject Cinema.
The Silver Stream.
Country music is all about real life.
They're songs that tell a story about people.
And the photography has captured it.
As the music evolved, the image evolved, and photographers captured the entire story of country music.
For a long time it was boots, hat, fancy shirts, big belt buckles.
These were suits that people used to ask them if you plug them in and they light up.
The Grand Ole Opry was really a big thing. Everybody had sequins shining in the spotlights. It was glamorous, and I was there with a camera.
Photography made me want to be a part of country music.
I'd like to tell you guys a little story.
Oh, God.
It's about you.
I know.
Last week...
I already had to do... I'm sorry in advance. I appreciate it in advance. It's not true. She can look at it that way, but it's not true.
Anyway, back to my story. Last week I was watching my favorite show on TV, Supernatural, and I was watching the end of the show where there was a montage going on, and there was a song playing. It was a very sweet little song called Broomstick Cowboy, which I found out later on, because at the time I had no idea what the hell this song was. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching the show, and I'm thinking to myself, gosh, I've never heard this song before. I wonder what it is. I wonder who's singing it. And my dear sweet sweetie walks into the room, takes one look at the TV, and goes, oh my God, that's Bobby, what's his name?
Bobby Goldsboro.
Oh my God, that's Bobby Goldsboro. And I'm like...
I haven't heard him in a dog's age.
And I look at him, and I'm like... Who in the F is Bobby Goldsboro? So I go...
So I run down watching Scotty Grow, Honey, I Miss You. He was a big star in the 60s and early 70s.
So I go to this site that I go to a lot. It's called SuperWiki. It's a Wikipedia for Supernatural, and they do a lot of the minutia about the show. And I'm looking at the music that was used in the show, and son of a gun if he's not right. It's a song called Broomstick Cowboy, performed by Bobby Goldsboro. And I'm like, good grief, I'm married to a music encyclopedia. And I went on my show, Platinum Rose's Garden, and sung his praises and said pretty much if you bring up any single song ever in the history of ever, he'll probably be able to tell you what it is.
And I had to humbly say, I'm sorry, that I appreciate that, but I'm nowhere near that good. But
oh my God, but you are.
I'm not.
You're very close. Now, the reason I bring up this story is because we sat through a really cool film today about a genre of music that I will be honest, I really did not get into in any sort of way until I was in my late 20s, early 30s. Growing up, country music simply was not played in my house. Not like it was banned in my house. It just, neither of my parents were into country music. My circles of friends weren't into country music. Me, who considered the fact that, my biggest dream was to run off with Bret Michaels and become the ultimate groupie for Poison, was definitely not into country music.
Cue 1985 by Bowling for Soup.
Oh, shut up. Anyway, since I met this guy over here, I wound up being a little bit more open-minded in my taste of music. And I started listening to more country music. And I was like, hey, this is actually not that bad. I started to listen to newer country acts. And I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. And then I went back and listened to some older country artists. And I went, wow, this is some good stuff. And then we saw this movie. And it made me realize I know so little about country music, and he was sitting there going, oh, that's so-and-so, and that's such and such, and they had this hit from 1970 whatever, and I was like, I'm married to a musical Rolodex. And we're going to talk about Country, Portraits of an American Sound.
Country Portraits of American Sound is about country music and the artists that populated and the photographers that made the iconic images of country music over the years. I first noticed this was coming out about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I wrote to Contact. I said, I'd love to check this out. Send me what I can. And so they did, and I'm like, wow, this is really fascinating. It takes, from the press kit, it says it takes audiences on a visual odyssey through the history of country music as captured by renowned photographers who have portrayed the ideals, lifestyle, and personalities of country music artists for 90 years.
Now, normally when people think of country music, people who aren't into country music, you think of specific things that you automatically associate with country music, and those would be high hair and rhinestones. Now, what...
and pink cowboy suits, apparently.
Matching.
Oh,
pink
my
cowboy
God,
suits.
I'd never
Wow.
seen those before.
And
Yike!
And the thing is, though, when you look at these portraits of these artists, you realize this is not kitsch. This is not cute or quaint.
It's country.
It's country. These people were making just as much of a statement as a band like Kiss being out there in their dragon-themed boots and their leather and their blood spitting and fire and stuff like that. They were making just as big of a statement and having just as big of an impact on their fans because they realized that people who came to see them were there to see a specific look just as much to hear a specific sound.
Yep, I grew up in the Midwest in my youth, and my mom was a mild country fan, but my grandparents and other people in the family were huge country fans. For many years, when my mom and stepdad would go over to my grandma and grandpa's house to play euchre
something else I never heard of
every freaking weekend for years, Grandpa would be playing the same damn albums over and over again. Hank Williams, Dave Dudley, Dottie West. I'm like, ah! But I did develop a like for certain country music over the years. I was mostly into what became known in the 60s and 70s as countrypolitan. This was the kind of country music that had a slight edge to it that would allow it to cross over to the pop chart. And quite a few of them did in the early 70s. In the 60s, though, it was all about the high hair, the cowboy. I mean, it's about fashion. And fashion, strangely enough, started really in a basic way, as the movie did, with Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash was a legend And he wore mostly black. That's why they called him the Man in Black. He got that whole idea. And he was an icon. Mm-hmm. And the photographer, many photographers over the years took photos of him. And he had one or two in particular that they talked to. And it was pretty amazing. I mean, some of the stuff and some of the shots. And every artist.
There's that iconic shot of him flipping the bird off to the camera.
I'd not seen before.
Which has wound up becoming a very well-known meme in the last few years.
Especially after Hurt came out, yeah.
With that picture and the words above it, in a world of Justin Bieber's Be Johnny Cash. Which I completely and totally
We
endorse.
saw a film a couple years ago called Everybody Street. It was about street photographers in New York.
Mm-hmm.
This is the same kind of film, only it's country music photographers.
Yeah.
Featured in the film are Grand Ole Opry photographer Les Leverett, along with music photographers Henry Ditz, Rayanne Rubenstein, portraitist Lee Weiner, documentarian Henry Horstein, and contemporary shooters David McClister and Michael Wilson, along with interviews from a number of country music luminaries, including Roseanne Cash, Roy Clark, Merle Haggard before he passed away, Lyle Lovett, Charlie Pride, Leanne Rimes, Kenny Rogers, Tanya Tucker, the band Perry, and Keith Urban, among others. Also, Connie Smith, Marty Stewart, Garth Brooks, fashion designer Manuel, Ronnie Millsap, a whole bunch of people talking about. I thought it was most interesting and most telling in the interview with Ronnie Millsap. Ronnie was born blind. He became one of the biggest stars of country music in the 70s and 80s. Had a number of crossover hits. His biggest crossover hit was a song called Smoky Mountain Rain in the early 80s. But he was a regular at the top of the country music charts. And he's talking about all of this stuff. The fancy suits with the rhinestones and everything. And how he knew that was an iconic part of country music, even though he couldn't see any of it.
Yeah.
And it made him one of the biggest stars of the 80s. And he's also just a cool, crazy dude. I loved this film. This was so informative. And I grew up listening to a lot of these acts and seeing, I enjoyed the fact that they did spotlight Hee Haw, which a lot of people rag on, but actually was the meeting of West Coast and East Coast country music, because Buck Owens, one of the biggest stars of the genre of the 60s and 70s, was from Bakersfield, California.
Which has its own tie-in to country sound, which was focused extensively in this film, which I had absolutely never heard of.
Bakersfield was a country mecca, I guess, in the 50s and 60s.
Well, it turned out a lot of people that had left the southern part of the United States during the Dust Bowl, their families wound up settling in California, in the Bakersfield area, and more people came out during World War II to find work in the shipbuilding and airplane building and stuff. And after the war, they came back because there were jobs.
Yeah, going back to Hee Haw, though, the idea of combining the East and West was Buck Owens and Roy Clark, who was based in Nashville and had done television like Swingin' Country and a few other shows before Hee Haw. And why you sat there and you were like, I've shown you some of this. You've seen it when you were younger. You don't understand my love for this show. Hee Haw is just one of the funniest shows ever made. And it's like, its humor is kind of, well, they call it corn pone humor. It's really dumb jokes told in a great, funny way.
See, I'm sorry.
And music, and great country music. And I grew up with that show.
I realize the next thing I'm going to say is going to get me branded as, well, you're just a Yankee from Massachusetts. What do you know?
Well, I always thought Merle Haggard was an Okie from Muskogee. He turns out he's one of the Bakersfield people, too.
Yeah.
Bakersfield people. I didn't know that.
See, I've seen Hee Haw because you've shown it to me. And I'm sorry.
I haven't actually shown it to you. I've shown you the Roy Clark hosted infomercials selling the DVD sets. That's all I've shown you. Because I'm tempted to buy them. I love the show.
It's just the fact that, okay, some of the jokes are funny. I mean, I admit that. But I'm sorry. If I was somebody from the South, I would think I would be sitting there going, what the hell?
We didn't. We embraced it. The South and the Midwest, they embraced the show. That's why it ran for 25 years.
Okay.
It was an amazing show.
I would just think that people would feel like they were being mocked.
Yeah.
But
This movie gives you a history of the modern country music movement from the folk movement through today.
Yeah.
And all the portraits that have come through. I mean, there's hundreds of pictures in this film that are wonderful and stir up memories. High-haired Dolly Parton from the 1960s, or, Lynn Anderson from the 1970s, or, the costumes like Hank Snow used to wear back in the 50s and Hank Williams. And it's an amazing film. If you're a country music fan, you're going to love it. If you're not a country music fan, you may be tempted to check some of it out by the time you finish this movie. What did you think of this?
Well, like I said, my exposure to country music growing up was the closest exposure I had was my cousin who played John Denver. That's what I thought country was.
John Denver was considered country music in the 70s. He was winner of a number of CMA awards over the years.
And what the other things I knew about country music, I'll be very honest, were told to me in disparaging tones by older kids and older...
what happens when you play a country music record backwards? Your wife comes back, your dog comes back, your truck works again, and so on and so forth.
Well, my thing was that a lot of the people that I was around who talked about country music talked about it in a very disparaging way and spoke about it as being very sexist. And because of that, I grew up, post-sexual revolution, the whole women's lib thing, and being brought up in that whole kind of, I don't want to be beholden to any man and all this stuff like that. And the first time I ever heard Tammy Wynette's Stand By Your Man, I was like, what the actual F is this shite? I went off. I went completely, lit a fuse, went bananas. Mm. I still don't like that song.
Right, but what did you think of the movie?
The movie I thought was really beautiful. It showed the people behind the music and showed the way that the camera is just as big of an artist's tool as a brush or a chisel for a sculpture. The way that you take a picture of someone, whether it's a posed picture or someone who's on stage, it shows at that moment, at that second, who they are and what they're doing and what it means to the people around them. Now, people might be like, well, if it's a posed shot, it doesn't mean as much. And I don't think that's true. I think a posed shot shows someone at a point when they're a little more still and a little more polished than a live shot, which is a lot more frenetic and crazy. But they both show the artist, and it shows the artist and makes you want to learn about the artist and find out why they do what they do. If you showed somebody a picture or several pictures of Johnny Cash, and if you showed that to someone who never heard of Johnny Cash before, they might say to you, well, why in all these pictures, why does this man wear black? And then you could play them a song like The Man in Black. And that would open them up to the person that Johnny Cash was. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully they would be like, wow, I want to find out more about this artist and why he wrote such songs and why he performed the way he did. Mm-hmm. And you can get all of that from one picture. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a message from this film. Music is important, but like with food, where we see the food before we eat the food, we eat with our eyes. Sometimes we listen to music with our eyes before we even hear it with our ears, because we see a cover of an album and go, whoa, that looks, they look really cool. Let me try them out. And that's what I took away from this film, that the camera is just as important as the microphone and the guitar.
Directed by Stephen Koshones and featuring a number of country stars and their photographers. Mm-hmm. What do you think? What's your score?
I give Country Portraits of an American Sound a very positive A-.
I give it an A. I think it's going to be a lot of fun if you're a country music fan, and very enjoyable, especially if you're a country music fan. But even if you're just a music fan in general, mm-hmm. it's going to give you a look into the country field that you've never seen before. Country Portraits of an American Sound premieres on video on demand and digital HD this Tuesday, February 21st. Day and date. You'll want to check it out while you can. It's definitely worth the look-see.
Good times and great movies. Subject Cinema.
Welcome to the Really Awful Movies podcast, a celebration of low-budget cinema.
Is another apocalyptical prediction about to come true. Winds of death will sweep across the world, and whole continents will be cast adrift in an ocean of blood.
Chris, and along with Jeff, we're bringing you the very best and worst of horror, sci-fi, action, exploitation, kung fu, and women in prison movies from the 1970s to today. Be sure and check out reallyawfulmovies.com for reviews, interviews, lists, and terrific movie giveaways.
Paul?
What?
They want to publish our book.
Oh, that's great news.
And they want to give us an advance.
How much?
$250.
No.
Subject Cinema.
Deja vu. What is it, and why does it occur?
Just had that little feeling. You ever get that funny little, that kind of feeling, that Vuja day? You know, not deja vu. This is Vuja day. This is the strange feeling that somehow none of this has ever happened before.
Deja Vu Review.
Dobry wieczór bardzo szanownemu państwu. Zespół Figi Daktyle z gościnnym udziałem 2 sióstr. A jak się nazywacie?
Ja Złota, a ja Srebrna.
Będą robiły u nas chórki i striptizy. Przed państwem córki dancingu.
Daj mi tę noc, tę jedną noc.
Kocham cię.
Jak się zakocha, on weźmie ślub z kimś innym.
Well,
Muszę ci coś powiedzieć.
Yeah, you gotta be able to... It's hard to describe some films. This film defies description. It's just your average run-of-the-mill, mermaid vampire musical love story.
Yeah.
Right?
Pretty much.
Premiered at Sundance this year, was also in the Boston area at the Boston Underground Film Festival. It was their opening night film. Film is from Poland. It's called The Lure. Give us the rundown.
The Lure is about... They're actually not mermaids. They're actually sirens, would be a bit of a more accurate definition. Mm-hmm. Silver and gold or golden, I'm not really sure which, are a pair of sirens. Now, for those of you who don't know what a siren is, other than that thing on top of a police car, a siren is a mythical being that would seduce men with their voice, and they would kill the men that swam to them. They would sit on rocks and sing, and the men would jump out of their boats and swim to them, and then they would be killed, or they would drown on the way. So, in other words, these are fun types of creatures. They are singing, and as they're singing, they wind up being heard by a group of musicians called the Figs and Dates Band, and they wind up becoming part of the band, and they become a hit with the crowds of people that listen to them sing, because they're sirens and that's what they do, they sing. The problem is that Silver becomes interested in Mietek, who is the bass player, and the problem with that is that if a siren falls in love with a human, she has to get the human to fall in love with her as well and kiss her by a certain time, or she'll die. And the other sister is still killing people, and these aren't sirens in the traditional sense of sirens where they let people drown and then, that kind of... These are kind of like sirens...
They're vampire sirens.
Yeah, with vampire teeth. This story is kind of what would happen if The Little Mermaid was rewritten by the writers for Fangoria. This movie is weird. I mean, does it end with true love? Does it end with people riding off into the sunset on unicorns? What do you think?
I'm going to butcher this, people, so just so you know. With Marta Mazurek as Srebrina, which we think is silver. I don't know how to pronounce silver and golden in Polish. Michalina Olzanka as Złota, who is the other one. Kinga Prius as Krista, the leader. Is that the female leader of the band? Okay. Andrzej Konopika as percussista. That's the other guy. Mm-hmm. And Jacob Giersdahl as Mitek, the young bass player that she falls for. I hope I didn't butcher those too badly. Original title of the film, Klorki Dansingu. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that does literally translate to The Lure or not. So, in any case, what did you think?
Okay. As urban fantasies go, this was interesting. It was weird. The music was pretty good. I mean, it had a whole 80s vibe to it, which was fine. It tries really hard. I mean, this movie tries really hard, and it does hold your attention. But by the end of it, I was like, what? I was like, this is a mess. Literally. By the end of it, you're kind of like wiping off blood and foam and seawater. And would I see it again? Probably not. Would I recommend it to my friends who are into urban fantasy just to give it a rundown and say, you got to check this out, it's kind of trippy? Yeah, I would. What about you?
I loved this film. Really? Okay. You didn't think it was that good? I thought this was brilliantly funny in places.
Well, I was like, are they vampires? Are they mermaids? What the hell?
They also had the lyrics of the songs printed on the screen on subtitles, and I was thinking how much of them are a lot like J-pop theme songs and such. They were very descriptive of what they were talking about. The chemistry between Silver, Marta Mazurek, and her little bass player boyfriend there is excellent. And I've forgotten his name already. They are, let's put it this way. If they make an American remake of this anytime soon, the first name that's going to pop up for the bass player is going to be Thomas Mann. He's an almost dead ringer for the guy. It's like, okay.
I would have thought Ethan Phillips myself, but...
Who?
Ethan... Quicksilver.
Evan Peters?
Evan Peters, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, that too. The music was fun. The story was interesting. The horror elements were really well done. The gore and such were pretty enticing, although they weren't completely... It's kind of like, let's show them just enough to whet their appetite without going overboard. It was a big hit at Sundance, and I thought it was brilliantly funny and poignant in places because... She does mean well. She really does fall in love. And whether that is going to be reciprocated entirely is a different story entirely. What's your score?
I gave it a B+.
I gave it an A. I thought it was really fun, and I think that it's going to be a big hit when it comes out in America. It is scheduled to hit theaters in limited release around October, which isn't surprising because it's a kind of a goofy,
it is a Halloween
80s Halloween vibe.
Yeah, it's got a Halloween vibe to it.
And I would love to see it again. If you're not interested, I guess I will go in with Anthony or something. But I thought it was delightfully bizarre and a perfect way to open this year's Underground Film Festival. The Lure, check it out when it comes your way later this year.
You have to admit it's an engrossing tale.
Oh, brother.
See what I did there?
The Lure is now playing at selected theaters nationally after we saw it last year at the Boston Underground Film Festival. And it is, by the way, currently in prep for an American English language remake. I'm telling you, watch. Within the next few weeks, we're going to announce the cast. We're going to see the name Thomas Mann associated with this film. I'll bet you $100.
But I do
or Evan Peters.
But I do have one question.
What's that?
Will the actors be paid scale?
Oh, enough of the puns. Jeez.
The last reel.
You heard of viral videos. This one went viral thanks to Linda Carter, who put it on her Facebook and her Twitter this week. And I'm like, this is the perfect story to wrap up the show with. Apparently, Roxy on the Move, is that the name of the thing? Roxy in the City is the name of the Facebook page for the adventures of Roxy. She is a Yorkshire Terrier, lives in New York City. Roxy's owner has been apparently dressing her up as Wonder Woman on a regular basis, complete with a little doggy. She does have a doggy tiara. I didn't notice that. A little doggy Wonder Woman costume.
The older Wonder Woman costume, the vintage Wonder Woman costume, where her
with the skirt. From the original TV show. This week they put together a video of these clips set to the theme song from the Linda Carter television series. It is so distinctly adorkable. I'm sitting here laughing myself sick. I'm sending Kim the link. I'm like, you have got to see this. It is just the most cute thing ever. And I don't do cute.
For people who have been complaining superhero movies have gone to the dogs since before since before the Daredevil movie, this is for you.
And
cute.
She gets the swimsuit in, too.
She does.
Roxy in the City's Adventures of Wonder Woman. I'll have a link to... I'll actually try to post the video, and I'll have a link to the video in the show notes. If you're a Wonder Woman fan, if you're a dog fan, you're going to want to check this out. So, Roxy in the City, we think you make a dynamite Wonder Woman dog?
Wonder Dog.
Wonder Dog. And that's the last reel. Oh, we got a lot of stuff on this week's show. We got a lot more to come next week, and as we begin to segue into Oscar week, we'll be having a lot of stuff on the website. You'll want to check it out. We haven't brought up the BAFTA winners yet. I cannot find the list I had, and I appreciate. I'm sorry for that, and I also still can't find my Berlin notes. We haven't been able to put that up yet either. I am working on it. I haven't forgotten, and we'll probably have them on next week's show because we're going to be talking a lot about awards in the past and the future. And next weekend, in addition to our regular edition of Subject Cinema with reviews and news and goofy stuff, Monday, February 27th, our annual Oscar recap show, all the winners and losers from the Razzies, the Spirit Awards, and the Oscars, and all the fashion and stuff in between. And that'll be coming up sometime on Monday evening, the 27th. I think we're going to get out of here. We got lots more we're going to be talking about next week, but we need to recharge our batteries, don't you think?
I think so.
And own it, drive it like you stole it, roll it, this is your life, you can be anything, you gotta learn to rock and roll it, you gotta put the pedal down, and drive it like you stole
For Subject Cinema, I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be buttered.
And may your roses always be in bloom.
TTFN.
Bye now.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema theme performed by Eric Lyon. Subject Cinema is recorded and produced using Sony Vegas products. Subject Cinema is copyright 2017 by PNR Networks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies.
That's all.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.